Alright, so welcome back, or welcome to those that are new. Today we've got a little bit of mining on Pyro 1. Um, just kind of little series I'd like to do, cover some of the main planets, possibly some of the moons. We'll go with some of the um, planets first as much as possible. So that way we can just kind of find out what's out there for those that haven't really explored too much. I know it seems like a lot of people are still hanging out in Stanton, and there are good mining opportunities as well as salvage and pyro. You just have to be careful, like anything else. Um, with the introduction of pyro system, you would have thought that a lot of the criminal activities and so forth would all move to there, but realistically, they're going to stay wherever most of the players are. So we're going to see a lot of the pirates are still sticking with Stanton. Um, Now, with that being said, people will be doing contested zones, stuff like that. There will still be some people, so it's not safer. But being a much larger system the way it is, it's a little easier to hide and get your mining done, get your salvage done. Um, so, with that being said, my initial impression of Pyro 1 is it's actually a pretty good planet for prospector mining. I don't know that I would go so far as to say it's better than Selin was or is, but you get a nice mix. Mainly, what I wanted to find out was what's primarily here, because as we know, originally Sig said they wanted to kind of centralize materials in different locations. So, like, uh, Crusader would have a certain base material, or ArtCorp would have a certain one. I don't necessarily see that here. Um, More of kind of a smorgasbord of materials. Um, Now, during the course of this, we'll find a couple of different types of deposit. This particular one we're approaching now is quartzite. Again, I did the same. I did plan it the same way I would anything in Stanton. I dropped in from a OM, um, and then started looking for deposits. As you can see, we've got a nice cluster of rocks here, different sizes. You will find some that you're not going to be able to crack with a prospector, but on a whole, I think I found quite a few that you could. And there's also the standard. Well, I'll just say that there's probably a lot of rocks that are smaller. So you could probably even hit this place with a stock prospector and go mining. The problem you're going to run into is with the system being so big, you'll expend a lot of quantum fuel getting from planet to planet. So it's going to be one of those things where you have to pick a planet that you're going to go to and then stick with it for that run. It's not one of those where, well, I'm going to go to Pyro 1. If that doesn't work out, I'll jump over to Pyro 2, and so forth. It tends to be more of well, I need to just stick with it because I've already used a good bit of quantum fuel to get here. Um, Now, with that being said, where you base out of is going to be a big factor as well in Pyro. Um, I personally have based out of Stanton, and I just take a prospector over to Pyro. Sometimes I'll start out at the Stanton Gateway station. Other times I'll go to Rune Station, being as kind of more off the beaten path. Um, as you can see, we're finding a lot of smaller rocks here, ones you could theoretically pick up and run with. If you're doing the missions to get copper and so forth like that, and corundum, these are good ways to do it. If you don't want to buy it, you could literally run through and um, harvest the materials here or other places, and then refine them, and then transport them in a cargo ship to where you need to be. You can basically bank up a bunch of copper, a bunch of corundum, take it all to the Pyro Gateway, I think it is, station, and you can turn it in there. Mechanics are pretty much the same as they've been. Basically, you run your laser up, try to get it to move. I did not bring any gadgets with me today, because this is just a run to see what's here. I am currently running the Hofstein S1 along with the Riker C3. I still find that typically gives me the best mixture of power versus stability. Like I can get this to move a little bit, but it doesn't seem like I'm having a whole lot of luck. Obviously, if I had a saber to put on this, I'd probably already be cracking it. But again, I didn't bring any gadgets with me today. Getting a little bit of drift here too. I'm not sure if it's the atmosphere. I need to calibrate my sticks again too. Again, you can find lots of base materials here. I've seen multiple different ones, like so quartzite here. This deposit has copper, a lot of it. Again, if you're doing those cargo missions for Citizens for Prosperity, I think there's even some for the headhunters as well. Alright, let's see. Thinking that bigger rock back there is going to be too much. Let's see if we can find something else here, since I couldn't crack the 13K rock. Zoom feature here. Hit the wrong button. Made some changes here, so I'm trying to remember what it is for extraction when I made it. Pretty sure I moved it to my joystick, so here. There it is. Alright, so we'll go ahead and grab a little copper. See how much that gives us. Now, Pyro 1 does have a large number of smaller rocks that you can just pick up that I found. But it also has decent sized rocks with, you know, Terranite, Bexolite, gold, so forth. So you can get more stuff. So it really just a matter of what you're wanting to do. Same rules apply scanning wise. If things pop up under 5K when they first show up, then they're probably gems, not prospector minables. Anything over that shows up over 5K is potentially a rock deposit that you can mine with prospector. I do kind of like the way this planet looks. I mean, it's pretty cool. Kind of desolate. Got that bluish tint to it. Maybe it's black. So, I mean, it looks pretty cool. They went out of their way with graphics here. There's obviously some rocks, aphrite. We'll go ahead and head over. Like I said, I'm just kind of making sure everything's still the same as far as the rocks go. There's been a couple of patches since my last video, so I want to make sure they didn't change anything. And they are so far it's pretty much holding true. Pretty much anything that shows up under 5K is a gem or a rock mineable. Anything over that is usually prospector or mole. So Pyro 1 will work for both. Now, I did not, in the course of running around on Pyro 1, find a lot of hadonite, but I found a crap load of aphrite. Not that that's worth a lot, but I mean, if you get enough quantity of it, it will be. And with the release of, I think it's called the Geo that they're going to have here soon, where you'll be able to mine in a Atlas, it might actually work out pretty good. You know, you might be able to jump into a. We haven't actually measured it yet, obviously, but it looks like it's small enough it might be able to fit in like a cutter or something like that. To bring a whole new lease on gem mining for people that have smaller ships. And you pick up an Atlas on the store or when they're available in game, and be able to go out gem mining. It might be a good way to start making some cash until you can get a bigger ship. Or if you just enjoy it. Some people appreciate and enjoy the rock mineable gameplay, or even hand mineable, which they've actually expanded quite a bit coming up in the new patch. Here we've got a nice deposit. Previous one was quartzite. There's about a half a dozen different ones. So there's granite, there's felsic. I mean, there's a bunch of different ones. And I found on Pyro 1, I found at least 3 or 4 of them. Obviously, I didn't go over the whole planet. But I mean, there's quite a bit. And as you can see from what we're seeing here, there's, I mean, Terranite. We found plenty of copper, as I said. Let's see. What do we got here? Again, if you're trying to do those Citizens for Prosperity or Headhunters missions with corundum and copper, you can collect a lot of it here. Sorry for the delay in videos, but originally I was having some issues with Star Citizen, staying connected and so forth. That seems to have cleared up for the most part now. But of course, family and job and so forth all take a toll. Usually I had a day or two off during the week, but that's changed since I work all week now. So it's a little harder to get time in to do videos. Alright. 10K. Might be able to do that with this setup. Okay, there we go. It's moving. Get us a little gold. And some more copper. Even if you completed the missions to get the paints, you can still continue to do those missions to get rep with them. So, I don't know how much longer that's going to last. My understanding is on the next patch, we may lose that ability. Those missions may be gone in phases. So, So if you haven't completed it to get the paints and so forth yet, you might want to get a move on it. Alright, so there we go. So the Prospector will still do 10k depending on the makeup of the rock. Pretty good crack there. A lot of visual artifacts here. I'm not sure if that's part of the game or just glitches. Would be pretty cool if they kind of make it almost like lightning on the planet. Get a little arcing and sparking. Until they make it actually damage the ship, then it would be cool. Alright, obviously I'm using the stock Prospector bags, so there's not a lot of... I mean, I've only got 32 SCU. Yeah, I've seen the videos people have made about getting 80 SCU and some ungodly amount for the mole and so forth, and I just don't think that's a good idea. That's the kind of stuff that usually results in us getting a wipe. People take advantage of glitches like that. And we've got enough problems with the being able to put the mole bags on that I'd rather not give them any excuses for delaying fixing that even more. So I'll just be running with the stock 32 SCU or the 48 with the mole bags, because that seems to be an intended feature. Whereas the glitching it to take 80 SCU is not. At least I'm pretty sure it's not. I would be highly surprised if they don't patch that out. Because, I mean, let's face it, 80 SCU on a Prospector, you're kind of getting right up there with a thing there with a mole. Which really just defeats the purpose of the Prospector mole divide. Alright, let's see what else we got here. Go ahead and go over to this one over here, since chances are pretty good that it's a Prospector mineable. As you'll see, I keep hitting the scan or the ping. That's twofold. One, so I can keep my direction on where I'm going to the next outcropping of rock. The other thing is, being how dark it is on this planet, that actually lets me see where the surface is at, so I can make sure I'm not getting too low, especially when I'm in mining mode. Much like normal, I usually mine in SCM. I like having my shields. Some people choose not to, and that's a personal choice. But personally, I've had too many things go wrong with shields protecting me, or with rocks doing things I didn't think they would. And then the next thing you know, I'm taking damage. So, last thing I wanted is to get grounded out here while mining and lose everything in the ship. So that is apparite. Let's go back over here this way. This should theoretically be the rocks we're looking for. Yep, there we go. Felsic deposit. So now we've had quartzite, granite, and felsic all on one planet. So far, I'm going to say that whole area rock thing is not working in Pyro, or it's not planned, one of the two. Not that they really implemented it completely in Stanton, but it's even more so here. Alright, obviously, as you can see, we got a nice little mix. This one doesn't have copper, it has tungsten as the base material. So See what we've got here that we can possibly take. A lot of smaller rocks in this one, it looks like, which not necessarily a bad thing. Just means you can crack them a little quicker. This is what I'd like to refer to as a nice little prospector bunch. Like literally, you could probably fill up just on this patch if you really wanted to, depending on how picky you get. And obviously, right now we're all still chasing the credits. But eventually that's going to change. Eventually when crafting and base building and so forth come in, a lot of these materials that we pass up on are going to become more important. And we're going to be less likely to pass them by. Again, drive it up. Try to keep it in the lower half of the green bar. Sorry about that. Spring is here. Sinuses are going crazy. Then we got a little Terranite rock. Go ahead and break that one too. Figure about 5 to 8 is probably the sweet spot for the prospector right now, with just a basic loadout. You get gadgets that goes up a little more. You can actually go up to about 10 with this build that I've got. Obviously some people are more partial to like the helix or the impact. I've just found that this particular build works best for me. So we're gonna stick with it so far until they give me a reason not to. It's not a game-breaking build or anything. There's no glitching to it or anything else. It's just pure balance, stability with power. Then of course it looks like they've got a Drake mining ship coming out, so we'll see what happens with that eventually. Obviously I'll probably pick one of those up. I don't actually own a prospector. This is a loaner. So I think for the Arastra, I got this in the mole, so. So depending on what the new Drake ship does, I may grab it. I'll probably grab one of the Atlas Geos too. And we'll try to get as much as we can here. See if we can max out this load. Like I said, I'm not too worried about getting some copper and so forth in there, because I can always use it in the missions. And I'm kind of gearing up towards when crafting and base building will come in, where I don't want to necessarily be too picky, because we'll be able to use it all. And it looks like we're full. Alright. So now at this point, I'm just going to fly around a little bit and see what else I can find. Because, I mean, I found 3 of the types of rock deposits, so I'm kind of curious whether I'll find any more of them. Much like any other place, Pyro 1 seems to be all dependent upon where you come down at. You might actually hit right off the bat on a good spot. You might have to fly around a little bit to find some rocks. There does seem to be a large percentage of rock minables in the form of aphorite. So far, I haven't really found much else besides that. Not to say there isn't hadnite or dolomite on here. I just haven't seen a lot of them. And I know there's supposed to be some additional rock minables, so I'll probably do a video on that at some point too, once I get a little more familiar with where they're at. But for right now, I pretty much always go back to my first experiences, and that's the prospector. So once a new patch drops, usually I kind of gravitate between that and vulture salvaging. Although now I've got the fortune too, so occasionally I use that as well. At least till I build up some capital. You know, some of those larger ships take quite a bit of money to maintain, especially now since they've raised some of the prices with quantum fuel and all that. And repairs and so forth. And as far as salvage goes, let's face it, the reclaimer needs rework. Talk about a headache trying to unload. Looks like I'm coming up a little dry here as I'm going. Yeah, and it looks like it's going to have pretty big areas where there's not a lot of rocks to crack. But it seems like you can always find aphorite here, so not sure what use we're going to have for aphorite later, but that might be a good thing to store in your reference once crafting it all comes out, just because aphorite may become important at some point. I'm curious to see, as we're doing this series on the planets, if there's some places that are better for some of the new ones like tin and so forth or not. Did not find any of that here. Not to say it doesn't exist, I just didn't find any. But I would be more liable to say that it's probably not likely here, just because I haven't seen much of it. So there may be a case made for certain materials being in certain places in the system, much like you have in some of the other ones. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that. I mean, obviously they're still doing a lot of work, a lot of tweaking. But I mean, overall, mining gameplay is back, and it seems to be pretty stable. The servers, for me, lately, in the last couple weeks, have been a little bit better. I just haven't had the time to make videos, so hopefully I can correct that here soon and start getting back to regularly doing them. But with summer coming, that may not be the case. We'll see. I'd like to be able to try to get at least 1 or 2 half-hour videos a weekend, but we'll see what happens. A lot of that's going to depend on the significant other and what she wants to do, because there's a lot of times where I get, we're doing this, let's go. How's that go? Happy spouse, happy house. So if she wants to go do something, we'll go do something. Because most of the time she lets me do this. So on the occasion when she doesn't want me to do this and wants me to do something else, that's what we're going to do. Yeah, she puts up with a lot with gaming. So that's kind of the compromise and the trade-off. Fortunately, most of my kids are older, so of course the grandkids not, but he doesn't live in my house, so that's a little different. Alright, so it seems like I'm finding a lot of rock minables right now, but I'm not finding a lot of prospector rocks. farther I've gotten. So it's going to definitely take some more experimenting, but as a initial run on this planet, I'd say it's not too bad. I mean, there's a nice variety of materials. You can definitely make money here, just depending on where you base out of. Obviously, if you're spending, you got 2 hours of playtime and you're spending, you know, half an hour of it traveling, that may not work so well. The idea of spending half an hour in quantum at any time in the game would have been unheard of a year or two ago. But now with Pyro in, it's actually not unrealistic if you're going across the system, and you may even have to stop and refuel. Now there are drives out there that will let you jump across Pyro once or twice easily. I forget which one I tested. I tested a couple of them. I might actually do a video on that at some point too, but they're slower. So while you can jump farther, you have to take the time to do it. Alright, let's see. This looks like a solo rock. What do we got here? Alright, so we're probably not cracking that, and it's Bore, so I'm not as worried about it, and I'm full anyway, so, but, again, yeah, another granite deposit. I'm thinking this one's gems. I don't think it popped up until later. Yeah, so this one's going to be gems. Tell by how close they are together. Yep, aphrite, so more aphrite. So if you like aphrite, there you go. Alright, and I think with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Call it a successful little test. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. Thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll be able to get the Pyro 2 video out here soon. And other than that, have a good day.